Welcome to As You Are. I am Whit. This is Lisa. Nice to see you all. Nice for you to see us, rather.
Yeah, we're
We
in
want-
person
I
live.
know, we wanted to introduce ourselves.
Did. We are real humans. We are not artificial intelligence.
It's true. Tis true. So we thought we would spend a little bit of time introducing ourselves and interviewing each other so you can get an idea of who we are, what kind of work we do, why we've come together. Might make more sense once
Yeah.
you it. And yeah, we just wanted to show up. We're excited to um, show up more on video.
That's right. It is a bit of a challenge. I feel like the age that we are, it's not necessarily a natural thing to be showing up. Some people are really kind of okay with it, and it has taken me a lot of work to not feel really self-conscious, despite the fact that I am a teacher and have stood in front of classes and even hundreds of people and given speeches. There's something
It
about
hasn't been recorded and played on
no,
the internet.
exactly, and played back to myself, yeah, which I don't necessarily to myself. But yes, so we're here to introduce ourselves, and we are, in fact, going to start with Wit today. So we have a series of questions. It will be very similar to what we normally do, which is a discussion because Whit and I could actually talk about everything for hours and
we have
have.
to we have to cut ourselves off
We
continually.
do. We do.
Just
We
like,
do.
we look at the clock and we're like, what time is it? I have to go.
Yeah, I've got kids to pick up. I don't. Whit usually says that. I can sit here and literally talk for hours. So the first question for you, Whit, is what inspired you to pursue holistic life coaching and breath coaching?
Yeah, so I'm Whit. You now know that. Nice to be seen. And I am a holistic life coach. And I also do breath coaching. And I am just going to start with the fact that when I initially got into life coaching, I was so averse to getting into life coaching. Like, I had this idea of what a life coach was, an American life coach, because I'm American. I live in London. I very much do not identify with cliche American culture. I never have. I moved away as soon as I could, moved to Europe. And so this idea of the American life coach, as you can see sometimes on social media or in other places, totally freaked me out. I was like, absolutely not. But I inevitably went there anyway because I was drawn to it just organically and naturally, I think. Um, I have had a very long journey of my own, which has been quite intense. I'm an incredibly sensitive person to start out. I very much, for a lot of my life, found myself in reaction to my life and my environment and felt like I was really living from a place of reaction to things continually. Um, I struggled with an eating disorder long ago, 20 years ago now, and had addiction in my family and went through a lot of struggles there, dealt with depression, the really big emotions that I found would totally consume me, and have been in my own basically massive journey around all of that. And have to say, I am now in a place that is so far from where I once was that, yeah, that's what led me to coaching, essentially. Wanting to really, really share things that I've learned and that I know and that I've learned through training and that I have acquired over time that I think I fully think and believe and know really, really help women to be able to step into their power. So I have looked around a lot of my life and seen a lot of women who are really, you know, feel really trapped in their lives, their roles, and don't know how to sort of make it any different. They feel like totally, I mean, in particular, like I'm a mother, I work with mothers. I am really, I see so many women who are like, just like, I feel so trapped as a mom. I feel so trapped as a wife. I feel so trapped in society, in my life. And it doesn't have to be that way. And so that's why I'm so passionate about what I do. And also, I also believe that our world needs a ton of change. And I believe that like women are the way forward. But in order for that to happen, that women need to really step into their power, their own knowing, learning to listen to themselves and their bodies. And I believe that is the way that we change the world. So, quite big in terms of my like belief, but that's what I truly believe. Um, and so that's what has led me over time really to coaching. And breath work came into my life like really organically. Kind of felt like almost by accident. A friend asked me if I would join them in like a 5-day nervous system reset with the beautiful Reconnected. And I tried it out and totally changed my life. Totally changed my life. Um, and so that has gotten me into, being really interested in the nervous system, seeing how the nervous system is really tied to our ability to make choices and to do things in our lives, and or not do things in our lives, and how, sort of being in states of survival can keep us from feeling like we ever have a choice in our lives. So that's the introduction as to like how I've ended up here a little bit.
Yeah, and it also gives us a really good idea of your approach and how integrated it is, and why then you call yourself holistic, because obviously you're dealing with a lot of different modalities that are moving somebody forward, or setting them free in essence, because if they're feeling trapped, I guess that's what you're offering. So how if you're working with somebody, how do you kind of lead them through what's a process that works, or that you feel, yeah, how do you approach that, I guess?
Yeah, like working with an individual is like, it's very much tailored to the individual. So I never know what's going to happen in a session. Um, but I do come back to sort of like certain, I can say pillars. I don't actually like have it structured in my business that they're like pillars, but they are pillars. They're beliefs that I truly have in my coaching that are ways to set ourselves free, which essentially is rooted in making it all okay, like allowing it all and like being with it all. And that includes like all emotions, all thoughts, all starting to get in touch with like desires, needs, like, and I said starting to get in touch because I think a lot of women actually aren't in touch with desires at all because they've been um, just told that they're supposed to like basically sacrifice themselves for lots of other people. And in doing that, there's no time to actually look at our own needs and desires. So it's getting women in touch with their needs and desires, beginning to like spend time with that, beginning to get to know that. But a lot of it's really about like just this like whole acceptance of ourselves, our bodies, our emotions, and that's part of the breath work. It gets us like in our bodies. It gets us to spend time with our bodies and to be able to like just make it all okay, to see it all, to listen to it all. And that truly, I think, is like absolutely the key to like unlocking like all of the potential in our lives. Because as soon as we like make it all okay, as soon as we start listening to ourselves and validating ourselves and like telling ourselves through that process that we matter just as much as everybody else, that we matter, then like amazing things happen.
Yeah, the magic.
Yeah, like true magic.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if somebody comes to you and they are kind of stuck and they, like I'm guessing that a part of your process is seeing where they are and what they're used to and, what's, I guess, talking about some of the, or I'm wanting to know some of the processes that you go through with somebody who might not be familiar with breath work, for example, or how do you take them through that, or how would you introduce that to somebody who's never heard of that before?
Mm-hmm. And I have a certification in breath coaching. So what I find so fascinating about breath coaching, and breath work is like a larger certification,
Yeah.
which I am working toward, but not there yet. Um, so some of the exciting things about like breath coaching is, okay, so first of all, you can drop into like a parasympathetic nervous system state through breath work. I also, there are many different kinds of breath work, I will say.
Mm.
I have not spent time with the more dramatic kinds of breath work. I have no interest to, actually. I believe, once again, without having spent time, like that it can really push people beyond what they are ready for. So I believe in really, really gentle styles of breath coaching and breath work that literally give you only what you can handle and don't push you beyond what you need to, be pushed into. So I will start with that. So basically the kind of breath work that I'm interested in really puts you in a parasympathetic state and really like basically signals to your body that you are safe so that you can start to like signal to your body that you are safe as much as possible, because most of us these days live in a state of like constant survival. Everything, small things have now become like immense stress triggers for us, and we basically live like triggered all the time. So that's not a state where we can be in the rest and digest, like, state, so that we can actually be in a state of creativity and calm and so it's really, really vital to go there and to practice going there so that our nervous systems have more flexibility. So when we are triggered or we are dysregulated, we can go back to a regulated state and we can basically like be able to get in touch with our desires, for example. I think that that's a necessity to be able to get in touch with your desires, to be able to see possibility, to be able to like see, to listen to where we want to go. And then there's this amazing thing too about like learning about the breath and how we breathe and becoming aware of that, which is basically like a lot of us have massive breathing, they're called dysfunctions. I don't like that word very much, but that we live with. And they are often stimulated in periods of stress in our lives or trauma, and they can stick around. So like some of the dysfunctions are like you could be a paradoxical breather, which means that you breathe actually like the opposite way. So when we breathe in, our bellies are actually naturally supposed to expand. So our diaphragm pushes down, and when we breathe out, our diaphragm pushes up and it pushes the air out. But you can get in a state where you've had a trauma response where you're actually doing the opposite. So your diaphragm isn't doing the work it's supposed to be doing. It's working quite the opposite. So you're not getting full breath into your body. And lots of people also have very short breath, that they are like shallow breath. Exactly. They're breathing out of their chests, and other people hold their breath. I was definitely in a state of like, I am prone to, in my past, going into freeze a lot and holding my breath. So these things directly, like I heard before I got into breath coaching, how you breathe is how you live. And now I just think it's like a beautiful thing. When I first heard it, I was like, what the fuck does that? But now it's like, so if you are a person who like breathes small breaths up in your chest, you're often a person who lives like that. You live in a way of like making rash decisions, and you do things quickly, and you're hustled all the time and you can't slow down. Or if you're a person who holds your breath all the time, you might have real problems making decisions. You get stuck in indecision, you get stuck in freeze. So it's this like fascinating thing. So as we start to spend time with our breath, reminding our bodies how to breathe properly, because it is a reminder. Our bodies know how to do all this. This is the other thing. I'm just like, we knew all this, we know all this. I mean, I have little kids, I watch them and I'm just like, oh my God, like so much to learn. I have so much to learn, it's like, because when we were young, like, hopefully we didn't have like immediate trauma. It's like that's how we breathed. We had big belly breaths and then we could exhale fully. And our nervous systems were like really pliable. My kids get upset about something. They're like, in a fight, screaming, hitting. 2 seconds later, they're like best of friends again. They have like, it's totally over. So it's this flexibility in our nervous systems to never be dysregulated, not to never be calm, or never not be calm. It's not to not have the full spectrum of emotions and responses. It's actually the opposite. It's to have those and be able to return to a state where our bodies can rest and digest, our cells can regenerate. If we don't do this, our bodies, we get things like long-term illnesses, we get a lot of physical manifestations, but also it affects everything in our lives, like everything in our lives. So yes, I'm very passionate about it. I love it. And I did, honestly, like I can't see, as soon as I started breathwork, I couldn't see coaching without breathwork anymore. I was like, I took this big pause in my coaching, because I was just like, nothing makes sense anymore without breathwork. I have to have both. I have to do both, because I also believe that, we're so detached from our minds or from our bodies. We are so attached to our minds, making all the decisions from our minds in this constant state of stress. And we can't, like, that is the opposite way that any good decision is ever made. Not that there is good or bad, but it's basically like, it's vital that we are dropping into these safe spaces for our bodies, and being able to come from that place, being able to be in our bodies, to listen to our bodies, to listen to our emotions. The messages in our bodies are messages, the emotions are messages. It is all giving us so much, like, it's giving us everything we need to like thrive and live brilliantly. And basically what we've done is just like suppress that, been like, I know better, my brain knows better. And that is like the exact opposite. So I love also, like, I love spending time with emotions. People need a lot of assurance that emotions are safe to be with. As soon as we start spending time with emotions, we realize that they're such messengers for us. They give us so much information and knowledge about what we need, what we want, what we're not getting, and like a million other things. So that is another part.
What are some of the practices and rituals that you encourage, or that you kind of give to use?
Well, I do breath practices with clients, and then I'm going to be offering more breath practices on their own and to support the clients that I have, and through workshops as well. But I also really like, one of the emotions things that I talk about on the podcast and I talk about everywhere, because I just like, it is like the way that I spend time with emotions. Well, one of the ways I spend time with emotions. So one is through breathing. Breathing can bring up like lots of emotions, but also just dropping into your body when you have an emotion. So like, basically, like, if you have an emotion come up, whether it's like frustration or it's anger or it's sadness or whatever it is, to dismiss the thoughts and to go into your body with the emotion. So feel the sensations in your body, and to not make it, I continually try to work away from labeling things as good or bad. Like, there's no good or bad. There just is, like, if we can start working toward a place of curiosity. I actually really don't like when people are like, just get curious. Because I'm like, well, when someone's really struggling and they haven't spent, a big emotion comes up, it can feel incredibly unsafe before we've spent time with it. And you can't get curious when you don't feel safe, actually. So that's another thing about breath work and nervous system regulation. It's like, you have to feel safe to get curious. So basically,
it's not a default position, is it? Curiosity only comes after you've had time and space to be able to then meet it with curiosity. Otherwise, it can just be completely terrifying or
Totally.
really intense kind of feeling, and curiosity can't fit into that then.
No, curiosity isn't even an option then.
Right.
So it drives me nuts when people are like, just get curious. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah, because that's
like,
kind of after you've done a whole lot of other work, isn't
absolutely.
it? So the first step would
Absolutely.
be, dropping into your body and giving yourself permission and space to be able to feel it, even if it's discomfort. Like,
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah, absolutely. So getting curious later, before that really is like, I just tell people, and I do myself, is like, make a list of the sensations. You notice yourself saying it hurts, which has this like negative judgment, then just like notice that and keep going. Like, is it hot? Is it cold? Is it tight? Is it like loose? Is it like, I don't know, is it have a lot of energy and movement in it? Is it still? Is it stagnant? Is it, get
heavy.
descriptive about it. And so that's really what I encourage in terms of like spending time with emotions. And then every time thoughts come back about the triggering thought that is attached to it, then just like let that go, meditation style sort of. And then that brings me also to like something that I didn't mention about my coaching, which I really, really am, so committed to, which is basically like getting people used to the idea or to begin to believe the that we have basically a bunch of stories that we carry around about all the things in our lives. And they are not truth. They're stories. And that is not to invalidate anyone, because validation is like the core of my work. So it's like all about validation. But to begin to question our stories and our self-beliefs and to begin to change them, because we have the power to change them. And that's where we can, that's how we can like change our lives to like where we want to go. It's when we change our stories, because we have lots of limiting stories we carry around that we believe wholeheartedly are true. And like we're like, well, this always happens and that always happens. And this like every time I do this, like, I never get blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I use Byron Katie's work as like a core to that and come back to it again and again, which is like, first question, is it true? Is it absolutely true? Can you know it's absolutely 100% true? And the answer is always no. And people smile when I ask that question because they like know, they're like, okay, no, it's not absolutely true. And then to shift that story into, well, before doing that, it's really important that you ask the question of like, okay, so how does it affect your behavior? How does it affect your actions when you believe that thought? And usually it's like, well, when I believe that thought, it keeps me from doing X, Y, and Z that I want, or something along those lines. And then it's like, okay, well, like, what would you be without that thought? And then there's usually like a, whoa, shit, could I not have that thought? And I usually actually shift that to like, okay, so what's the new thought that we gently pivot toward, that we don't replace? Again, it's not bad, good. Like the old thought is not bad. The new thought is not good. It's like a gentle pivoting to a new thought, a practice. And Lisa, we've talked so much about practice. It is all a practice. It is a gentle practice that takes time, that over time is like totally life-changing. And, and I continue to practice. I'm in practice with all these things. I continue to practice all these things, but I don't pass anything along to my clients that I don't practice myself, that I don't believe wholeheartedly, because I am in practice with all of it. I continue to practice with all of it. I, participate actively with all of it. So
It's beautiful. So I want to know, if people are ready to take the next step, what do they do?
they contact me.
Mm.
They can contact me through As You Are via Substack. Lisa and I are the only ones answering questions over there currently.
It's
until
just
we have a whole staff behind us, which is too, but not yet. So that's an easy way to contact me. I'm on Instagram at Madrona Coaching. So my business is called Madrona Coaching. My website is madronacoaching.co.uk.
We'll drop all those links in our notes.
Yeah, exactly. And I have a link tree on Instagram. That's an easy way to find me. I also have Madrona Journals on Substack.
And it would be really good to sign up to that because they are beautiful messages that are aligned with your life. So it's coming from experience and from your heart and soul. I am signed up to it and I love it when it lands into my, it's glorious.
Yeah. So, and I do one-to-one coaching, private coaching, and but going to launch some programs and workshops in the near future.
That'd be a good idea to sign up, wouldn't it? Because then,
yes, if you sign up, you will hear about it. So yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. What a pleasure. What a pleasure to hear more about your work. And now you know about one half of As You Are.
Shortly to hear about the other half.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be up next, but not today. Thank you very much for joining us.
Bye.